Hi there, my name is Kevin Awakuni, and I'm a librarian here in the Department of Exploration and Creativity here at the Los Angeles Public Library. And I'm here to welcome you to today's LA Made, Father Greg Boyle, The Power of Extravagant Tenderness. Before we begin, we'd like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made programs to you virtually. LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. If you'd like to see more of our amazing programs, please visit our online calendar at lapl.org/events. And for our LA Made programs, visit lapl.org/LAMade. Our website also has blog posts and video links that highlight the library's diverse resources and other upcoming programs. We'd also like to take this opportunity to pay our respects and acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territories of the Tongva, Chumash, Fernandino, Tataviam, and Keech tribes that is now occupied by Los Angeles. We recognize and acknowledge the first people of this land, honor their elders past and present, as well as their descendants who are citizens of these nations. For more information on which territory you may reside on, check out native-land.ca. But now to today's program, Father Greg and the Power of Extravagant Tenderness. Father Greg Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries, the largest gang intervention, rehabilitation, and reentry program in the world, will share what he has learned in 3 decades working with marginalized populations. That love is the answer, community is the context, and tenderness is the connective tissue. And just as a reminder, participants viewing today's program will have an opportunity to win a free copy of Father Greg's new book, The Whole Language, The Power of Extravagant Tenderness. So please email the EC department at lapo.org for your chance to win. Father Greg Boyle is a native Angelino and Jesuit priest who from 1986 to 1992 served as pastor of the Dolores Mission Church in Boyle Heights, then the poorest Catholic parish in Los Angeles that also had the highest concentration of gang activity in the city. In 1988, they started what would eventually become Homeboy Industries, which employs and trains former gang members in a range of social enterprises as well as provides critical services to thousands of men and women who walk through its doors every year seeking a better life. He is the author of the 2010 New York Times bestseller Tattoos on the Heart, as well as Barking to the Choir, The Power of Radical Kinship. He has received the California Peace Prize, been inducted into the California Hall of Fame, and in 2014, President Obama named Father Boyle a champion of change. Today, you will be joined by actor and producer Richard Cabral. Richard Cabral is a former East LA gang member who has since dedicated himself to helping others born into similar circumstances. He was awarded Homeboy Industries' Homeboy Hero Award, an award given to a former gang member and graduate from the program who has most profoundly transformed his or her life. Nominated for a 2015 Emmy Award for his riveting portrayal of Hector Tonce in ABC's American Crime, and a 2019 Critics' Choice Award as the scene-stealing Coco in FX's hit show Mayans MC. Richard Cabral was discovered by the producers of NBC's Southland while working as a baker at Homeboy Industries. Now let's welcome to our LA Made stage, Father Greg and Richard Cabral.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Father Greg.
Hey, son.
So first of all, congratulations on your 3rd book. And congratulations for making it through the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Look, so this is for people that don't really know, have read the first 2 books. I think for me, what is the main difference between the first 2 books and coming into this, right? And I know reading it and understanding that a lot of it was I think you wrote it in the beginning of the pandemic, right? During COVID?
Yeah, all my books are like the first book took 20 years to write. So, I had a lot of these stories that
Right.
I told you when you were at juvenile hall,
Right.
Mass. And then the second book that first book was in me. The second book was asked of me by Simon and
Mm,
Schuster. So I started to write it, and that took maybe 10 years or something. And
right,
then,
right,
and then I just always kind of uh, keep a whole running categories of stories that are thematic. And so then, yeah, you're right. I think probably during the pandemic I did a lot of the writing. uh,
right.
but I'm always kind of writing, although I kind of
Mhm,
told
mhm,
myself this is my last book. But
right.
who knows? I mean, I haven't been I still storehouse stories and things, but who knows?
And your education, right? You came from writing, right? I mean, I don't know. You went to school for. Yeah, I forgot what you got, what degree you have as a writer, also, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I have an MA in English. I don't know
There
if
you
that
go.
means I know how to. I
There
don't
you
think that.
go.
I don't think
So
that means I know how to write. But I
not
also
that you know,
taught
but
writing.
it's
I
in
taught
you though, right?
writing.
It's always been in you. I feel.
Yeah, at Loyola High School, I taught creative writing and
Mm,
writing, general
right,
writing. Um, but that doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. So I just
right.
and I showed up there in 1979, and they said you're going to teach writing to sophomores and creative writing to seniors. And so I stayed exactly one day ahead of all my students. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but
They
anyway,
kept they kept you on your toes though, right? Kept you on your toes.
they did.
All right, so the first book, you had to get it out, right? The second one, it was asked of you. And the third one, you speak of themes. So the third one, what compelled you to really push forward? And what was the theme, right? And was there and was there things? There's so many questions that I have, Pops. I just read this book and like I think I'm gonna give an insider about this, right? So I think a thing that you do is you never use real names and you never use real gangs, right?
Right.
And you use it for, I mean, the reason why is very important, but and I understand that, right? But as I'm reading your books, I know everybody that you're talking about, and
Well,
and and
everybody thinks they
thinks,
do.
thinks, 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 thinks. But regardless, I know the spirit of it, Pops. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah, no,
saying? Like,
definitely. Now you know the heart and soul of the book.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm trying to trace. So if it wasn't Puppet and if it was another homie, it doesn't matter because all the homies share the same hurt, is what I'm trying to say,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
So
You're
as I'm reading this, I don't know how many times I laughed and how many times I cried. So it was very hard and it was very cathartic as you taught me, right? It was I had this feeling of just so much, Pops, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. But what was this theme? You talked about a theme, right? And the power of extravagant tenderness is, so it's called the whole language, but you chose to add the power of extravagant tenderness. Where did that come from?
Well, first of all, thank you for reading my book. I'm honored that you read it.
Of course,
And
Pops.
second of all,
Yeah.
second of all, everybody who walks through our doors here, which is right over here,
Mm.
um, and you know those doors very well. And we
Mhm.
always talk about the magic of the swinging of the doors. Anybody who walks through the doors really, truly comes barricaded behind a wall of shame and disgrace. And the only thing that
Mhm.
can scale that wall is tenderness. So that's kind of the secret sauce at Homeboy. We do all the things that a lot of people do, anger management, parenting, GED, grief and loss, therapy, tattoo removal, job
Right.
training. We do all that stuff, but it's secondary to creating a community of and a culture that cherishes. So, you want to create a safe place where people feel seen and then feel cherished.
Mm.
And so that's kind of the key thing. And so tenderness is the connective tissue.
Mm. Mm.
Otherwise love stays in your head or your heart, or it doesn't become something that actually heals unless
Right.
it's tender. And
Right.
so if it's true, and I think it is, that traumatized folks are likely to cause trauma, then it's equally true that cherished people will be able to find their way to the joy there is in cherishing themselves and others. I just came back from Jacksonville, Florida and had two homies with me, and and one of them got up and said, "Yeah, hurt people hurt people,"
Right.
which is true.
Mm,
But cherished people, people who
mm,
receive tenderness, are able to extend that out into the world, and
right.
that's the only joy there is loving, being loving.
And so walk me through that, right? Because as for the readers, they're gonna understand this, right? But I understand it in a different way, right? I understand that a man that's never been showed tenderness sometimes doesn't know how to receive tenderness,
Yeah.
right? So how, because people are gonna take your words, pops, and they're gonna do them, right? But then they're gonna see that a man that has been hurt all his life is not able to receive that love the first couple of times, maybe
Yeah,
the second time.
initially, and you remember when you came to Homeboy,
Yeah,
and that, and all the homies who are running Homeboy Industries right now, they all took 2 or 3 tries at it.
yeah,
It's like rehab. People will have a drug addiction, they'll go to rehab, and sometimes you ask somebody at a meeting, or someone will be speaking, they'll say, "Yeah, I went to 20 rehabs, and now I'm solid in my recovery," that kind of
right,
thing. So
right,
it's
right.
the same thing for gang recovery. I mean, in the early days, we used to kind of fret. We would, if somebody left or got arrested again
Yeah,
or got high or just disappeared, we used to say, well, maybe they'll be back.
right,
But
right.
now we say they'll
You'll
be
be
back.
back. You'll
They'll
be
be
back.
back. And because now there's a confidence in it.
Yeah,
Everybody's certain that once you have a taste of having been
yeah.
cherished, it's so compelling that it's hard for people to resist it.
There's nothing like it, right? And that's after, for me, after I've been out, for people that don't know, I've been out of prison for 13 years. It's been 13 years since I first stepped into those doors, pops. And you're right. No matter how many red carpets, how many movies, how many TV shows, there's nothing like the tenderness. There's nothing like the feel when you walk into those doors. And that takes me to another part that I think a lot of people ask, like, recreating Homeboy somewhere else, right? And it's always, the answer is always however you answer it, right? I'm not gonna, but it's like this place cannot be created because the space that you created 30 something years ago of tenderness and love is there. And as long as that is there, then I think you could recreate that. But Homeboy Industries is a very special place for the space I believe that you've created there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And thank you for saying that. I mean, the homies will say there's an aroma, you know,
Mm.
and which is that captures it. So I mean, we have what we call the global Homeboy network. So there are 300 programs in the United States modeled on Homeboy, and 50 outside the country. So you have uh, Braveheart Industries in Glasgow, Scotland. You have Rise Up Industries in
Mm.
San Diego. So
Right,
and we gather every August for 3 days, and here in
right,
Los Angeles, all our partners, and they come from Sydney and from Guatemala City, and some of them are different. What they do is different, but what we try to create is what exactly you said, which is the culture, which is primary.
right,
A community where people are received, and the Buddhists say, "Oh, nobly born, remember who you really are." So, we want to kind of look at homies in the eyes, and they walk in here, and they'll smell the aroma too of kinship and connection. And this better than anybody. The homies say, we're used to being watched, but we're not used to being seen. And there's something about being seen, and so that's the hope, is that people will really feel that in a palpable way when they walk through the doors. But the Global Homeboy Network, is kind of a group of people who believe in a certain kind of methodology, or the
right,
power of tenderness. And so,
right,
and though they're not identical, some deal with, you know, uh, folks who have been victims of sex trafficking, others are
right,
homeless, others are mental health issues
right,
or disaffected youth, like in Sydney, Australia. But they use the same kind of, for lack of a better word, methodology as
right.
Homeboy. So we didn't want to become the McDonald's of gang intervention programs with over 5 billion gang members served, you know,
Right,
so
right,
we,
right,
we wanted to kind of invite people. So people come and they're in varying stages of setting up programs
right,
to
right.
deal with vexing social dilemma, but they're using a kind of a model that we believe in here.
Right. Because and I'm gonna share some insight for the audience too, right? Because I'm a child that was started his incarceration at as a young child at 13, right? So it wasn't until I was 25 years old that I really came into Homeboy Industries. But I could say that a lot of these programs that were in the community, right? A lot of the visions is just give them money and create programs. But I think that's that's wrong, right? Because that didn't help me all them years in juvenile hall and county jail. And it was this extravagant tenderness that we're talking about, right? Because I think in the world we're all going through this pain, we're all going through this trauma. Pain is pain, but it is through these the word. I'm gonna fuck up the word. I'm gonna mess up the words. So I'm not gonna say it. But through our what you teach our homeboys is how we're able to deliver this love and healing, love and healing.
That's right. And you
Yeah.
know, so I mean, I think we always have this misconception that if only you were trained more, or educated more, a gang member,
Mm.
or that you had better character, or all those things are kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know, if you're
Yeah.
healed, you're never going to reoffend. If
Mm.
you have transformed your pain, you won't ever transmit it again.
Right.
And
Right.
that's kind of, so we discovered that probably we're 34 years old now as an organization, but probably year 15 we kind of shifted from jobs, nothing stops a bullet like a job.
Right.
And
Right.
then we said, well, wait a minute, you know what, like an educated gang member may or may not go back to prison, or an employed one may or may not, but then
A
we
healed one.
arrived at the notion that a healed gang member will not ever go back to prison, period. And so once we knew that, we said, well, let's dedicate ourselves to that. So that was our shift.
Let me bring a few insiders into the beginning, right? And I'm honored to know your story in a way that I could just, that it just comes like that. But one of the first moments of tenderness that's been documented that I received as as your son like this is when you were in Bolivia, right? And it's the story of when you're with the indigenous and that tenderness that I believe that you felt that when you came back is why you said that you wanted to dedicate yourself to working in one of the poorest communities of Los Angeles. If you wanted to, just bring in the viewers of how Father Greg of West LA ended up with a bunch of East LA Mexican gang members.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I was in Bolivia in '84, and so it kind of changed my life and altered my heart. And I was supposed to go to Santa Clara University to help run a kind of service, a community service immersion kind of program for students. And then when I came back, I'd already agreed to do that. And I came back, I said, oh no, it's not enough for me. So I went to my provincial, because I'm a Jesuit and he's my boss. And I said, please don't send me there. Send me to the poorest place. And as luck would have it, he sent me to Dolores Mission because they needed a
Mm,
pastor.
right.
And I barely spoke Spanish, but the Quechua Indians, above all
Mm,
in Cochabamba, Bolivia,
mm,
they just they were prophetic, and they showed me what the gospel, the marrow of the gospel, really looks like. And
mm,
so so they kind of put me on a certain course, but it was Dolores Mission, and of course we had 8 gangs at war when I arrived, and the LAPD called my parish the place of the highest concentration of gang activity anywhere.
mm,
So then I started to bury kids, one after another, and once I had 8 kids, 8 funerals in a 2-week period.
mm,
It was so intense. So you know, we did things. We started a school, we started a jobs program, and now, you know, we're the largest gang intervention rehab reentry program on the planet. But I never set out to do that. We all just evolved. We all backed our way into it. So, but yeah, there was something that started in the you know, this humble kind of community, one in particular called Temporal, which was up on a mountainside, and all the folks there were very Catholic, but they hadn't had a priest in 20 years, and so it was such an honor to. It's funny, today is Palm Sunday, and I was remembering a homie was emailing me about Palm Sunday, and I remember the Quechua Indians, and I was in my alb and my little scroll, and they put my ass on top of an ass. I had to ride the donkey because they said, no, this is what what you have to do, and it was humiliating and humbling and hilarious and very moving all at the same time. So I mean, it was really quite the experience. I wish I had a picture of it, but there
That
I
would have
was,
been amazing.
I was riding, this donkey that had a mind of its
I'm
own.
gonna make, but my dream is I'm gonna make the movie. After I make my movie, Pops, I'm gonna make your movie, bro. I'm gonna make your movie, and that's gonna be one of the scenes, right? Just on the donkey.
Yeah, I know. And with all the people kind of behind it, and they were so dead serious. And I was thinking, oh no, this is so dumb. But they didn't think it was dumb at all. They thought it was very
sacred. It was sacred. It was very sacred, G.
It was totally sacred, yeah.
Okay. All right. I know the natives over there are amazing, right? But Pops, a native and a cholo are completely different, Pops. Like,
yeah, I mean, they are, except
right. But so talk to me about that, because I don't get it. I know what it is to be a cholo, right? You know what I'm saying? But like, I don't know what it. So like, how does that go? Like, where?
No, I don't know if it's so much a connection. It's but there's something about the poor. If you stand with people who if you stand with people who've been cut off and left out, the Old Testament talks about the widow, orphan, and the stranger, and these are the folks who God thinks know what it's like to have been cut off, and so because they've suffered in this particular way, so God thinks these are the people who happen to be our trustworthy guides to lead the rest of us to the kinship of God, which is God's dream come true, that we connect to each other, that we be one. So, widow, orphan, stranger pretty much captured that my entire community of Dolores Mission, and there were a lot of orphans who were members of the 8 gangs, and there was kind of no there, and so if you knew their name, if you saw them, if you said, "Oh, nobly born, remember who you really are," and the soul felt its worth, and that's kind of so there was a connection there, about people who suffer are guides,
right.
and they're supposed to lead us. You don't go to the margins to make a difference, because then it's about me. But you go to the margins so that you can be made different by the people there, and that happened in Bolivia, and that happened in the projects.
Right. Yeah. Okay. A big part of it was written during COVID pandemic. The decade of death happened. But what was your take during this, right? Like, a lot of people lost their mind, lost families, lost loved ones, right? Like, how was this for go ahead, Pop, sorry.
I mean, you mean during the pandemic?
Yeah. I mean, what changed? Where we at? Like, I mean, I think for the world shifted, right? But especially for Homeboys, like, what pushed us through? I mean, what was that like? What is that like coming back as we're still coming back?
Yeah, it's in every red state and blue state, we have a 30% increase in homicides.
And
so people think it has to do with, sensible, criminal justice reform. No, and blaming, people like George Gascon, which is ridiculous. You want to move the society closer to no longer punishing wound, but choosing to heal wound. And, if the source of gang violence and the source of all crime really is always the same, it's despair or trauma or mental health issues. And so that's all there is.
Right.
So, but then you throw a once in 100-year pandemic into the mix, and what does that do to despair,
Right.
trauma, and mental health issues? It exacerbates all three. So,
Mm,
first of all, we shouldn't be surprised that there was an uptick in violence and crime during this as we're coming out of that, because it really messed with people's hope.
right. People
And
that were already hopeless, right? People that were right.
that's right. And so it really had an impact on that. So it's important not to, we don't want to return to dumb on crime
Right.
and go back to the bad old days that you remember when you were 13, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and
Right. Right. Right.
and
Right.
it was really draconian and terrible. And so the choice has never been tough on crime or soft.
Right. And but I want to share
It's
that
always
because
it's always been about smart. And so Homeboy is smart on crime. So I hope we always choose that.
yeah, and because people don't like that whole people talk about crime and pot and all that, but no one ever speaks to the ones that are affected. You get me? Like I come from the fatherless generation. Like when they did that, we were the children that had no fathers, young men that had no fathers, So yeah, it's very tricky. It's a very sensitive subject, but when we do things like that, not only do we lock everybody away, but the next generation as such are screwed also. So it's a very deep wound that gets that is affected, and I think a lot of people don't really have an understanding what it does to our society.
Yeah, I mean, somehow we have to imagine a society without prisons and then roll up our sleeves and try to make that a reality.
Mm,
And so, like right now in this county, just a couple blocks from here is Men's Central Jail.
yeah, yeah,
At the
and
moment,
yeah.
it's the largest mental institution
Wow.
in the world.
I spent I spent
Is
like
LA.
years. I spent years in there. I spent
Yeah,
years.
yeah. And so, but now they've decided not to rebuild it, and
Oh,
they're gonna tear it down eventually. And so we would like to be part of a thing that we're calling Hope Village, with all this property that's near us, housing,
yeah, yeah,
mental
yeah,
health,
yeah.
community, kind of the model of Homeboy applied to mental health issues and addiction issues, substance abuse, and the fact that people are unhoused. So we're going to build transitional housing and permanent housing, but we'd love to imagine something completely new. So
Right.
if they've decided, and thank goodness they did, they've decided not to rebuild Men's Central Jail. So
Amazing.
now we have to kind of come up with some alternative to
Right.
incarceration. So I'm hopeful that we'll get there.
Yeah. What's happening in LA? What is the hot topic? What is like for people that don't know that are viewing from all over the place? What is the thing what's happening at Homeboy Industries? Yeah. What's going on? What's the hot stuff?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think again, my fear is that we'll return to the terrible days,
Mm, mm,
and when you go back to like you mentioned it earlier, the decade of death. So that's when we had in 1992 1,000 gang-related homicides in LA County. But our response to crime and gang violence in particular was so crazy. You don't want to return to that, as if that ever worked. It didn't work,
mm.
and locking people up actually didn't make us safer.
Right.
And that's not me saying it. These are studies that people have done, and all the research says it didn't work.
Right.
But if we're not paying attention, we could go back to a terrible time. And it's quite politicized now about who's soft and who's hard and who's strict. And
Right.
and it's crazy. It's a crazy thing because we want to be able to see things correctly. What language is violence speaking?
Mm,
And once you know what language it's speaking, then you start to infuse hope to folks for whom hope is foreign, and you help heal damage and trauma, and you deliver mental health services in a timely and culturally appropriate way. that's what you do. That's what smart looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but my fear is that, especially in the climate in which we live at the moment,
Right.
is that people are going to go back to the crazy, lock them up,
Right.
throw away the key, Operation Hammer, Daryl Gates, all that kind of stuff. We really got past it, and I, I, I for one don't want to return to it because it's
Right.
so sure-footed in its wrong-headedness. It just doesn't work.
And I guess what I'm struggling at, right? Because you know what, Pops, like the programs are great, but for me, Pops, like if it wasn't for you, Pops, I wouldn't have been here. Like, like straight up, that's how I feel. And the organization helped, love me and take care of me to be able to propel me to the next level. But what I love that's happening at Homeboys right now, I love Jose Arellano, I love Stevie's, I love Hector's, and I'm at Fabian's, and I see a lot of us first generations are really understanding that we need to help the next generation of homies, Pops.
Yeah,
Honest,
you just named
honest.
all the people who run Homeboy now, so I can
Those are those are my ones.
I can go to my reward now, so I can because
You can-
I feel confident that those guys, they get the heart and soul and
Yeah,
spirit.
Pops. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And I've been on the outside, Pops. I
Yeah.
was the first one that came out, Pops, but I'm here, Pops, and it's like that's where I feel it's at. You did the big work, you did it, Pops, but now it's time for us to take on the next, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's how I see it, Pops, because I'm always trying to understand, what works. Why do homies die? Why do some homies go back to rehab? It hurts me, Pops, like these are my peeps right here. But I think that's what it is for the next generation, for us, for the ones that truly understand what trauma and what mass incarceration is, for us to be the ones to speak on the behalf of this.
And I'm glad you said that because, 10 years ago, a question I was always asked by funders and politicians is what's going to happen, to Homeboy when I get hit by a Mack truck, and nobody asks that question now because anybody who walks through the doors
Yeah.
knows that I don't run this place anymore.
Yeah.
The homies run it and the homegirls run it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're doing a good job. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of hanging around and still enjoying the ride. But I don't run this place. I don't make decisions. I really don't because I want them to own it. All these guys, the guys you mentioned, are really kind of geniuses, and
Right.
like you, total geniuses. And I don't know that many geniuses, but
Mm.
the guys you mentioned along with you there's something about a genius where you kind of know something that is so kind of unique and you know it in a unique way.
Yeah.
And so I just try to get out of the way. I'm around if they, need support or anything. But, and I'm on the road a lot. So I'm giving a lot of talks, which makes sense. And I'm trying to help. I see myself as an abolitionist if we can get rid of prisons and create all sorts of alternatives to incarceration. So I feel like that's an important thing to do. But I think it's important for me to be gone too, because then homies use muscles that they wouldn't use if I'm here. So
Right.
so far so good, and I feel confident, totally confident for many years now. But nobody asks me anymore what, so what's going to happen when you're gone?
All right, Pops, I gotta ask you a question though, right? Like I've been out of Homeboys for like 10 years, Pops, but like I think some of the scariest parts is leaving Homeboys, Pops. To be real, you know what I'm saying? Because Homeboys is that's my everything, Pops. That's my home, but out in the world, it's not is nice, as safe as, you know what I'm saying, as loving, Pops, as loving.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to have you on my side because when stuff goes south out there, I come back home and you help me out, and what do you like, it's that, Pops, because like the understanding of that, it's gonna be hard out there, but we must keep on going. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's really what I wish for the next generation of homies. You know what I'm saying? To know.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So, and you've always, you're always welcome, because Homeboy is like sometimes more home than home. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
hope,
it is.
and I
Oh,
always
yeah,
hope,
it is.
I always hope that it'll be that. Like the other day, I had a homie named Johnny, who I've known for a long time, who used to work in the bakery, and now he's kind of a chef in his own right. And I hadn't seen him for the entirety of the
COVID.
pandemic, and so we were in front of the headquarters here in Chinatown. And he gives me a big abrazo, and then he steps back. He's kind of scoping me out, and I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, you look different." I said, "Well, I have lost 30 pounds," and he said, "Oh, I didn't know hair weighed that much." He said, "Son of a bitch," but it's home. He came home, and it was always home, and it was, and
Yeah,
he's always
Pops.
welcome. And
Yeah,
it's a touchstone. Like he comes and he touches it, and he goes back to where
That's
you
it.
say exactly what you
That's it.
say. It's hard out there,
Out there.
but you know, home is the place you go to. You know, and they're not going to throw you out. You know, you go to home to touch it.
Yeah.
So, so that you can, okay, now I'm ready to, and we laughed our asses out in
Yeah.
front of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cafe, and we just died laughing, and it was enough. It was a
That's
little,
it.
and then he went back to really hard struggle, but he's resilient, you know, now
Yeah.
because of tenderness. He's resilient, and the world's going to throw at him what it's going to throw, but this Johnny's not going to be toppled by it.
Right. Right. And I think that's it, right? That once the home is there, once the well is there, you could always come back and drink from the well.
That's right.
You could always come back and touch home. And that's the thing, because I never had a home, Pops. So I didn't know where to go. You know what I'm saying? How can this big ass building be my home? Right? Like that didn't make no sense to me. Like, so, but now it makes sense that, like, and that's why I go to Homeboys, and they're gonna disrespect you and love you all in the same line. You're gonna get this, and you're like, they're like,
But you're mainly gonna laugh, which
you're
is
gonna
the
laugh.
thing, which are the homies here. I heard a homegirl once. She was giving a tour, and she was telling this tour group. She said, "At Homeboy, we laugh from the stomach." And
That's it.
you and I know what that is here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I've been to your house where we laugh from the stomach. You know, where it's because it's just joy. It's what joy looks like. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's where people are comfortable. They're at home. They're being fed by each other,
And I think
and
when
that's good.
you being at my home like that, Pops, like what an honor. You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to host you like that. And I think when you're here and when I'm there, it's it's like when we take off the armor, just taking off your armor, right? And you're just able to just be and just be from the soul to soul. I don't have to worry about getting my ass kicked. I don't have to worry about my mom yelling at me. I don't have to worry about gunshots. I have a place where I could just be me and be free. That's the space. Space is a key thing that I keep on that I keep on playing with this word, a space, Pops. We create a space. This is a space that we are creating to inhabit our truth, as you say.
Yeah,
Thank you,
perfectly said.
Pops.
Perfectly said.
Anything else you want to cover? I know we're almost getting there. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah? Good,
Yeah.
good, good. Where you headed? Is there so we have Lo Maximo coming up, right? If people want to get involved,
Well,
if
no, we just had Lo Maximo.
you just had Lo Maximo. So if
Yeah.
people want to get involved, what is the next big thing that people can get involved with Homeboys?
Well, people should come by now. You know, we're open. The mayor always deemed us an essential organization during the pandemic, so we've never really closed.
Right.
You know, we've been strict about stuff, but we've never closed. So,
Right.
I welcome people to come here or to visit our website or whatever.
Right.
But I'm going very early tomorrow morning to Cleveland with two homegirls.
Amazing.
Cynthia and Steph, and they're so excited. I was telling them, let's meet at 4 a.m. So go to bed now. And we're giving a bunch of talks, and then we'll come home. But so
Amazing. So and then so for people that don't know, not only is this a healing component, but the businesses are, you know what I'm saying? Like, right? We got we got the recycling, we got Homeboy silk screening, we got the LAX going. So what is there anything else? Or I just want to just touch the key things so people know.
Yeah, I mean, Homeboy electronic recycling is kind of a big thing, and we've moved into a new location for that because we keep outgrowing it, and we're exploring other ventures. But we have 10 social enterprises where homies and homegirls work, and so a lot of it is food, bakery, restaurants. We're back at the diner, and the only place you can get food in City Hall here in Los Angeles, and I flew to DC with some homies, so I walked by our cafe. It's the very first eatery in Terminal 4 at LAX, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you're inclined to wait in line to get a coffee and a pastry. So that's doing well. So
If you're in LA, they could definitely come and check out the facility. But what about if they're not in LA? Pops is like just get on the website, just
yeah, you
just
can
try
go
to
on the
find out.
website. You can like I was in again Jacksonville, Florida, speaking at the state attorney's gathering of a speaker series, and she had ordered cans and cans and cans of Homeboy cookies. So that's possible, I guess. So,
Amazing. I mean, great. So there's many ways. If you guys want to get involved, feel free, right? Get up in there.
I think, were they going to put questions up in the chat?
I think so, Pops, but I think
Oh, here it is. Does
all
Father
right.
Greg still celebrate Mass at Dolores Mission? Yeah, I'm Wednesdays at 5. That's my time if I'm in town. A lot
Wednesdays
of
at
times I'm
5.
not. Yeah, it's in Spanish, and
Okay.
so so there's 6 of us who live in my Jesuit community, and let's see, 2 of them, 3 of them work at Dolores Mission, you know.
Mm.
But then, others of us go and say Mass. So Wednesday is my time. Sometimes it's Holy Week, so I go there. You are brilliant. Thank you very much. Now the trilogy is complete. What's next? Have you ever considered a children's book?
Oh, you consider some of us children, so it's kind of like a children's book, no?
No, there actually are 2 children's books now that Laura Mira has brilliantly shepherded, and so those books are on sale at in our merchandise store and online, and
Amazing.
it's stories about Hope Has an Address and homies, and they're very clever and powerful because it's about a field trip of students coming here and having a notion of what this place might be, and finding what Richard knows so well in terms of kinship and connection and the magic of the place. So they're really good children's books. I didn't feel like I needed to write one, but we have 2 of them.
Right. It's great. I mean, because a lot of the trauma, starts at a very young age. So it's good to, But here's another question. Does
That's for
Richard
you.
think he would write a book about his time at Homeboys? Definitely a movie about Father Greg would be great. I mean, that's always been the vision, right, Pops? We've been talking about that movie for eons.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, they've tried a lot of things over the years.
Right.
There's always something in the works, but I'll believe it when I see it. But I hope you do it.
Yeah, no, I definitely got I got my poetry book, but I am in the works of trying to I'm actually putting like this, like I've collected, Pops, since that, like my family's artwork from prison, and I want to do the first book of our cultura told from the barrio, but through pictures, through paños, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what the book that I'm trying to put together right now. So
So there was a question there that said if I had funny stories about Richard, and not really. I mean, I'm so intensely proud of you. Although I want to say that I told you this before, and I can't remember what. I think it was Southland. I just remember
Yeah.
so specifically. We had the computer on, and we have council meeting every morning. At 9:15. So everybody was here, and somebody said, "Oh my God, you got to see Richard." At that point, I don't know if you were still working
I was
with
still
us or
working.
you
I was
weren't.
still at Homeboys. Yeah.
So we all gathered around at this desk where I'm sitting right now, and they put on this clip,
Wow.
and it was all I remember was you were
I was
uh,
in a ditch.
you
I was
were
in a ditch.
digging your own grave, and
Yeah.
a cop had a gun held on you,
Yeah.
and it was riveting. I mean, there were about 10 of us here. We all gathered around the computer, and it was jaw dropping. We were so stunned at how
Yeah.
amazing you were. You were just incredible. And it was like everyone in this room believed that you were actually, being forced, coerced to dig your own grave. Nobody thought for a second that you were acting.
Right.
You had inhabited this role. Anyway, I remember that so distinctly that we all just witnessed it together and honored it, and we were speechless. We went, "Oh my God, this
You
is
know what I remember? My first theater performance with you. Remember
oh
that? With Robert Egan. We had Bino. There was 4 at Ojai.
at Ojai." So it was a kind of a reading, or
We wrote monologues. We had wrote
oh, that's
monologues.
right. So it was
Yeah.
you,
This
me.
is Bambino was there. My homeboy Bambino. There was like 4 of us. Yeah, that was and I performed. I did a monologue. And remember, I had a standing ovation. I was like, and you're like, I think you're pretty good at this, son.
Yeah, no, that's right. I do remember. It was in that Ojai
That one right
auditorium
there.
thing. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was interesting.
yeah. So thank you, Pops. Not we got another one. Rick, do you have any funny stories or tenderness of your favorite stories about Father G? Man, this whole show right now is about my love and tenderness of Pops. And again, you just it's just thank you, Pops. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart, for just doing everything
But
done for me.
did we bump into each other in probation camp or
We
juvenile
didn't,
hall?
Pops. We didn't.
Did you ever see me there?
I seen you passing through, through the halls, through East Lake, but I never went to your services,
Yeah.
but I just, I was one of the homies from the barrio. Like, if you're from the hood, like, you're gonna hear about homeboys, right? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I had Anthony working there. All the homies were there. So, yeah, Pops, just thank you though, and we'll continue.
Yeah, but I remember, homies will always say that they went to services not to hear me, but to get out of their units. So
Yeah,
I figured that would have been one of your. So
yeah,
you were in East Lake mainly.
yeah. I was in East Lake, Silmar, LP, all of it. I did all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
East Lake is shut down right now. There's
oh,
nobody there.
yeah.
Yeah, it got shut down, and they were all moved to Silmar, San
Wow.
Fernando.
Wow. I think we had a question, but then how do you keep drugs and gang activity out of Homeboy Industries and keeping a standard? I think that's you, Pops.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge. Part of the thing at Homeboy is, we're reverse cherry pickers. We're not picking people who are already healed.
Mm,
We're really picking people who are belligerent and difficult, and that's the whole point. I mean,
right.
we could probably succeed better if we picked people most likely to succeed already, but that's not what we're about. So consequently, especially since people are excavating wounds and they're dealing with stuff, and they're tempted to self-medicate because the pain is so great. So this is sometimes the first time anybody starts to look at their wounds. If you don't make friends with your wound, then you're going to be tempted to despise the wounded. And the first person you're going to despise, of course, will be your own self. And so people will want to numb that pain. And so it's the only reason why we drug test, not because we want to play gotcha, but
Mm-hmm.
because we know that it means if you're back to using meth, it just means it was too hard to look at stuff. So and that's why we're always sending people to 90 days somewhere at a rehab,
Right.
and we always say, well, we'll hold your place for you, that's for sure. But we are always clear about wanting people to um, be whole and well, and none of us are well until all of us are well. So how do we, how do we help each other? How do we love each other into wholeness? How do we walk each other home? And so it's never punitive, although it's hard for homies. Sometimes, obviously, they'll say, forget that. I'm out of here. And then we'll say, they'll be back, you know. But,
Yeah.
if we can reduce the suffering and the pain of people, that feels like a worthy endeavor.
And then I just really just understanding that it's a symptom, right? It's always the symptom, as we say. And like, yeah, it's not that it's a bad person, it's a hurt person,
Well, I
that.
mean, where you start is where you're going to end up. So at Homeboy, we start in two, kind of firm, solid places. One is everybody is unshakably good. There are no exceptions to that.
Right.
And we belong to each other, and there are no exceptions to that. So you wouldn't exclude anybody, and nothing ever touches your goodness. If somebody is back to using meth, that doesn't touch their goodness. Their goodness is intact. It's unshakable. But it's about health. Like nobody healthy invades Ukraine. Nobody whole slaps Chris Rock.
Right.
Nobody well, assault
Right.
an aged Asian woman on the streets of San Francisco.
Mm.
Nobody healthy goes to a Stop the Steal rally. I mean, it's not about good people or bad people. Never. It's about, we're not all whole, and we're trying. How do we love each other into wholeness? And truly, 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 none of us are well until all of us are well. So how do we help each other get to a place of health and wholeness, and so that people are no longer strangers to themselves? I mean, otherwise they can't experience joy. And I was intrigued. I was reading the LA Times. A 15-year-old Ukrainian boy somehow found his way to Los Angeles as a refugee, and he says, and the quote in the LA Times was, "Vladimir Putin has an illness," he said. And I thought, yes, out of the mouths of babes. Yes, he's right. That's exactly right. So demonizing is always untruth, and it's why we don't make progress.
Right.
But if we know that we belong to each other and that we're all unshakably good,
Right.
then we can roll up our sleeves. Then we can make progress, which is why progress is so hard to make.
Right. And I like stripping it down and identifying the truth of it, right? Because when we let these stories, these lies run wild, then just things get more messed up. You get me? And identifying it as an illness versus this other thing. You get what I'm saying? Like whatever.
And the other thing is demonizing. It's striking the high moral distance.
Yeah.
That says there's an us and a them. There is no them. It's just us. And homies have taught me that. You have taught me that over, all these years, that you make room in your heart for people who are in pain. And their pain doesn't they're in pain. They're not bad. I've never met a bad person. And I've been a part of a really large gang intervention program. I've never met an evil person. I had a probation officer once say, "Hey, don't try to help that guy because he's pure evil." I couldn't believe it. And and no. and he worked for us. He was a homeboy hero at one point. And then he, good job, wife, 2 kids, and he's experiencing joy. But people are in pain. They're not bad.
Right. Yeah. No, thank you, Pops. And it's that, like, and that's, and even we're talking about Ukraine, right? And how in the little boy, like for us at Homeboys, you put us with our worst enemies. And I just want to sit, just drop that right now. You put us with our worst enemies. And what does that mean, right? As a gang member, my worst enemies means that his friends killed mine, and I possibly killed his, or I try to shoot at him, some type of something like this, right? And you put us in the same space together. And what time and time and again shows us that when you put these gang members in the same space, men that wanted to kill each other, what happens when they're in the same space? They heal. They identify themselves with each other, right? So I just wanted to just give an extra little insight on when you on what this space is and what the true work does. So thank
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
Pops.
part of the thing is you can't demonize people you know, and so
There
if
you
you
go.
if
That's the
you
one.
put
Yeah, yeah,
people in
yeah.
the same vicinity, human
Right,
beings can't sustain
right,
being enemies, and a bond is formed that's deeper than some guys'
mm,
families, and certainly
yeah,
stronger than a gang. There was a question earlier about in schools, and again, I don't think it's a magic formula, but anybody who is the proud owner of a pulse can be a delivery system of hope to people, to kids for whom hope is foreign. So
right,
it's a loving, caring adult who pays attention is what needs to happen at school. And and if you know people's names, if you see them,
yeah,
if they feel safe, seen, and cherished, then they won't join a gang. Nobody, I've never met, no hopeful kid has ever joined a gang. It's not bad kids who join
right,
gangs. It's kids who don't have any hope. And it's born of sometimes a deep despair or a lot of trauma or even mental health issues. But no hopeful kid has ever joined a gang ever in the history of the world. So
right.
if that's true, then everybody needs to roll up their sleeves and to, as the poet says, sing the song without the words and never stop at all.
And
Deliver hope, deliver hope.
and understanding that we're able to break that generational trauma, right? Because a lot of us that come through Homeboys are second, third generation that had no fathers, gang members, drug dealers, right? But it's proven, it's a proven testament that once we break it for our children, right? My 4 children will never have to go through what I did, right? Because
Right.
the love that you showed me is the love that I showed them. And even though I was in prison for the first 5 years of my son's life, when I got out, I just did what you showed me, Pops. And now I am blessed to say that my oldest children will never have to go through what I did because we broke the generational trauma.
And that's how you break the chain, because people say you got to hunker down and deal with prevention in younger kids. Well, but if you help homies, as we do, then they go home and they present to their kids the sanctuary that they've become, and they and suddenly you've broken this cycle,
Right.
and that's kind of how it works. So you don't have to choose to do prevention and not intervention. It if you really intervene with and help people heal rather than send them to prison, then that has huge benefit for their kids. So
Thank you, Pops. I think that might be it, though, Pops.
I think we're at the end. I love you, Richard.
I love you,
You're
Pops.
great. Don't be a stranger. Come home. Come home to us anytime.
I'm
Thank
there.
you so
I'm
much.
there every week with coffee. I got coffee. All
That's right. Good. Please
right.
bring more coffee.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for today's LA May program. And remember to check out the library's online calendar at lapl.org/events. And don't forget to check out our next LA May program on Thursday, April 21st at 4 p.m. for celebrating Earth Day with bees and trees. Join Byron Levy of Save My Bees and Byron's Bee Company and Elliot Kuhn of Cottonwood Urban Farms for a conversation on our city's urban ecology. From compost and soil to plants, trees, pollinators, and bees, Byron and Elliot will be live on the farm for a look at how nature continues to complete its cycle of resilience and abundance in the sprawling metropolis of Los Angeles. Lastly, we're very excited to let you know that thanks to a generous donation from an organization called Vlada's Seeds of Life and the Ahern Seed Company, we have received thousands of packets of seeds that you can get from your libraries. There are 6 varieties, including beans, broccoli, cabbage, cantaloupe, peas, and squash. So pick some up from your local branch today. And lastly, but most importantly, the success of LA Made and literally all of our library programs could not happen without viewers like you. So thank you very much. And have a great day.